The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Google Workspace. My name is Trish Connor-Cato. This course is recommended for users who want to get a quick overview of Google Workspace applications. This class is especially appropriate for individuals moving to Google Workspace from Microsoft Office. We'll dive into Google Sheets, the Google Workspace spreadsheet application. You'll learn about its display screen and how to input data along with some cool shortcuts. We'll move on to creating formulas, working with functions, and using the Google Sheets functions list. Then we will format numbers and learn how to preview and print a worksheet. We'll switch our focus to creating charts and working with both the chart editor setup and customize options. We'll explore pivot tables and how to create and use named ranges before ending the module by learning how to protect sheets and ranges. In Module 5, our focus will strictly be on using Google Docs. This is the Google Workspace word processing application. We'll learn about its display screen and then move on to changing the view of a document. Along the way, you'll learn how to insert images and page numbers. We'll use styles in our document and learn how to access the document outline. We'll end this module by collaborating with suggesting mode and working with comments. Google Slides will be the focus of Module 6. Slides is the Google Workspace presentation app. After understanding its display screen, you'll learn how to enter text on a slide and learn how to change the view of a presentation. You'll learn how to add an image to a slide and how to add, delete, and reorder slides. We'll apply a theme to our presentation, which will make it more visually appealing, and learn how to add transitions and animations to keep the audience's interest. We'll finish this module by delivering a presentation and using both presenter view and audience tools. Module 7 is all about Google Forms, the form creation app in Google Workspace. After understanding its display screen, we'll create a form, add questions to it, send a form, link a form to a spreadsheet, and view form responses. We'll direct our focus to Google Meet, the Google Workspace video meeting app. You will learn how to schedule a meeting from Google Calendar and how to join a video meeting. Of course, you will learn the Meet display screen before presenting your screen in a meeting. You'll learn how to manage meetings as well as how to change audio and video settings. We'll end by learning how to start a video meeting from Gmail and from Google Meet.
Looking to support our channel and get a great deal? Become a member today to unlock ad-free videos. That's right, your favorite courses without a single ad. Interested in a specific video? Purchase one of our ad-free courses individually. Looking for even more? Gain access to exams, certificates, and exclusive content at LearnitAnytime.com. More information can be found in the video description below.
In Module 4, we'll spend 13 lessons using Google Sheets. We'll start by understanding the Sheets display screen, and then we'll move on to inputting data. We'll create formulas, work with functions, and work with the Google Sheets function list. We'll move on to formatting numbers before previewing and learning how to print a sheet. In Lesson 8, we will be creating a chart. And in Lesson 9, we'll be working with the chart editor setup options. When we get to Lesson 10, you'll learn about the chart editor customize options. And then we'll switch our focus to working with pivot tables and then creating and using named ranges and protecting sheets and ranges. So I'm back in my primary account, My Drive, And the thing is, I usually hang out in my drive all day. Sometimes I have to refresh the screen, but it's worth it because from there I can get to the apps menu or use the new drop down to create new things. We're going to use the apps menu and we're going to go to Sheets. And from the Sheets home screen, we're going to choose blank. So just like with the common features, you get, in this case, untitled spreadsheet. It has a menu bar and a toolbar. Toolbar has some extra icons at the end, like this one has functions at the end of the toolbar. And you have the ability to format numbers from the toolbar when you're in Sheets. The file menu is pretty much the same, except that you have the availability to import in Sheets. And so we're going to talk about the display screen and then get started working in this application. So let's focus on the upper right. The first thing you'll see is an arrow icon. And that's when you hover over it, it's just letting you know that this new file has not been saved yet. The next icon over is to open comment history, and you'll learn about that later in the course. You have the ability to join a call here, or if you're in a meeting, you can present this tab to the call. So you can share your screen from this icon here. If I do the drop down next to that icon, you can start a new meeting or use a meeting code to join a meeting. Then you have your share icon. When I hover over that, it tells me that this blank sheet is private to only me. And then I have my account information. Now, you'll notice on the right side, you have this sidebar, and this allows you to gain access to other apps. So you have Calendar, you have Keep, which is a note-taking app, you have Tasks, you have Contacts, and you have Google Maps there. The plus sign will allow you to get some add-ons. And all the way at the bottom, you have a right-pointing arrow where you can hide that side panel if you're not using it. And then the left-pointing arrow, you can show it again. I'm going to go ahead and keep mine hidden for now. So everything at the top is pretty much the same. Again, there'll be differences on your menu options and on your toolbar. But underneath your toolbar to the left, it currently says E4. That's like the name box. It lets you know what cell is active right now, and I happen to be on cell E4. There's other uses for the name box. To the right of the name box, it's kind of set up the same as Microsoft Excel. So this wide blank area here is your formula bar. Then you have your spreadsheet. You have your column headings, your ABCs. You have your row headings, your 1, 2, 3s. And at the very bottom, you have a plus sign that you can use to add a sheet. So if you want another sheet, by default, when you go in, it gives you one blank sheet. You can use the plus sign to add more sheets. And next to that, there is a lined icon that says all sheets, and it's just showing you sheet 1, which is the only one we have in this file at this time. And then to the right side, down at the bottom, to the right of your sheet 1 tab, all the way to the right, you will see another icon. And when you hover over that one, it will say Open Explore. I think this might be a business workspace feature, but when I click on that, it allows me to get insights instantly. So it says to see answers, formatting, and charts in a single click, try adding more data or selecting different cells in your spreadsheet. We don't have anything in the spreadsheet now, so there's nothing there. I'm going to close that panel. So we're going to start by inputting some data. The intersection of a column and a row is called a cell. So when I click here, I am now in cell A1, column A, row 1. And that's where we want to be. So we're going to just type in some numbers. I'll show you some cool shortcuts along the way that will work great for training purposes. So I'm going to type the number 10 and press enter. And then I'm going to click back on cell A1. And you notice in the lower right-hand corner of the cell, there's a little blue box and it's a handle. When you put your mouse on the handle, it looks like a thin black cross. You're going to click and hold on the handle and drag down until you get to cell A5 and let go. So cool way to copy something, right? We have the number 10 in A1 and we drag the handle down to A5 and it just copied the number 10. Now I'm going to have you do Control and the letter Z, which is undo. So it gets rid of the duplicate 10s and we still have a 10 in A1. Now click on A2. And in cell A2, I'm going to type the number 20 and press enter. Then I'm going to select cells A1 and A2. If I point my mouse to the middle of cell A1, click and hold and just drag down one, and you'll have both of those cells selected. And right now, if you look at your name box in the upper left corner, right underneath your toolbar, you'll see that it says A1 colon A2 because I have two cells selected. The colon represents a range and it's inclusive. So cell A1 through cell A2, including both of those cells, are selected. And so with them selected, you'll notice the bottommost selected cell has the handle. You're going to put your mouse on the handle and drag down to A5 again. And because we put in two numbers instead of when we originally dragged the handle on 10 and it just copied 10, it's repeating a series. So it goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, which is kind of a cool shortcut to know. We're going to do Control Z again to undo. And in cell A2, you can double click the cell to get into edit mode, or you can go up to the formula bar where you see the contents of the cell. So you see the 20 up in the formula bar, and we're going to just change that 20 to a 40. And now we're going to select both of those cells again. And this time we're going to drag the handle on the 40 cell on A2. Just drag it down to row 4. So now it's putting 30 increments of 30 between each number, 10, 40, 70, 100, which is pretty cool. And now we're going to go to cell B1 and we're going to type 130, press enter. And now we're going to type 180 in B2. And I'm going to select both of those cells, drag the fill handle down to row 4. And now I'm going to show you another data entry shortcut. So the first thing we want to do is we want to insert a new empty row above row 1. So I can just right click on the row 1 header and choose insert one row above. So it shifted everything else down. In cell A1, you're going to type QTR1 and press your tab key this time. When you press tab, it takes you to the right. When you press enter, it takes you down one row and it enters the thing. So we have quarter 1 in A1. Now we really want quarters 1 through 4. And instead of typing them, I'm going to click back on A1, grab its handle, and drag it over to D1. it will repeat that series for you as well. So less typing for you. In cell E1, you're going to type regional totals. And now we want a new column to the left of column A. So just like we did with the row, I'm going to right click on column A's header and choose insert one column left. So now notice regional totals is in F1 because it inserted a new column. It adjusts everything over to the right. In cell A2, you're going to type east and press enter, west, enter, north, south, and then we're going to have in A6 quarterly totals. And we're going to go ahead and name this file. So I'm going to go up to the rename box that says Untitled Spreadsheet. And I'm going to name it 2021 Sales by Region. Click away from there. And now I just want to draw your attention to this arrow that used to say this file has not been saved. Now it says document editors can see your view history for this file. So now I'm going to show you how to create formulas. I'm going to go to cell A20. And every formula or function has to begin with the equal sign so that Sheets will know to do a calculation on what you're putting in. So I'm going to type an equal sign in cell A20. And then I'm going to type B2 for the cell reference. So you notice when I type B2, if you look at the actual cell, it's shaded. And if you look where we're typing the formula, it has the same color shading on B2. And right above that, it's showing you the value that's in that cell, which is 10. We're going to type a plus sign. And then we're going to type B3. It gives B3 a different color. Another plus sign, B4, yet another color, and another plus sign, B5. So now at this point that we have the last one in, it's telling us the actual total, 220. So when I press enter, you'll see 220 in cell A20. So you can use your plus sign for addition, your minus sign for subtraction. You can use the asterisk for multiplication and the slash for division when you're doing formulas. I'm going to click on cell A20 and press delete on my keyboard to get rid of that formula. Now, I typically use functions in Sheets. Formulas, you're typing a lot. They kind of lend themselves to errors. Functions are like packaged formulas that you can use. And that's what our next topic is going to be. And now we're going to go to cell B6. And I can show you a little trick here. If you go up to your name box, you can just type B6 and press enter, and it will take you to that cell. In B6, we're going to type our equal sign. And this time, you get something different. If you look underneath where you type the equal sign, it says tab, and then it says sum, and in parentheses, B2 colon B5. And then it gives you the result of that function, which is 220. So when we did the formula, we were too far away from the data in A20 for it to be able to detect it. When you're near the data, in this case, we have numbers right above where we're putting the function, and it's going to be able to detect those cells, and it will give you the default sum function. And that's the function that we want to use. So in order to use it, all we have to do is press our tab key, and it puts that function in for us. And if you look up at your formula bar, you'll see the function, the sum function, and then in parentheses, the arguments, which are B2, the range of B2 through B5. Now, the really cool thing is that we don't have to repeat that function for the other quarters. We can just drag its handle. Now, we don't have any data in for quarter 3 and quarter 4, but we're going to click on B6, and we're going to drag its handle to the right until we get to E6. And so B6 is still what's showing in the formula bar, and that's the sum of B2 through B5. If we click on C6, we'll see that it adjusted for column C. So that's the sum of C2 through C5. Now we have zeros for quarters 3 and 4, but if we click on the quarter 3 0, you'll see it adjusted for column D in the formula bar, and the same with E6, which represents quarter 4. Now that means that once we fill in the numbers for quarters 3 and quarter 4, the formula will automatically update to show the sum. Now let's click in cell F2, right under regional totals, and type your equal sign. So sometimes the farther away you are from numbers, like when we were in A20, it won't give you any function help. But this time it's able to detect that we have numbers to the left of where we are. And so it's going to select all of the cells to the left, B2 through E2, and it has the sum function, which we can just press our tab key to tab it in. Now let's say that you click on that cell and you type equal and it doesn't give you the suggestion. You don't have to do this. I'm going to type equal, and then I'm going to type sum, and I'm going to just, because it wouldn't have the sum B2 through E2 there if it's not giving you a suggestion. So I'm going to just select the sum function, and then I could click and drag B2 through E2 and then press enter. So that's kind of how that works. I'm going to select F2, and I'm going to drag its handle all the way down to F6. So we're seeing our regional totals. So far I have 140 for the East region, so on and so forth. And all of these formulas will update when the quarter 3 and quarter 4 numbers are filled in. Sheets has a functions list that you can use. And so let's go to cell G2. And we're going to go up to the Insert menu, hover over Function, and you'll see at the top they have the top 5 functions: sum, average, count, max, min. Then you can get a look at all functions, and then they have them broken out into category. And what I tell people is don't worry about the category. If you're looking for a function, just go to all, and they're all in alphabetical order. Now, in our case, we want to use the average function. I can get it from the all list, or I can, since it's one of the top 5, I can get it at the top. I'm going to select average there. So in G2, using the function list, it put in equal average, and notice right underneath it, it's giving you what's called the syntax of the function, which means you have the word average, and then the arguments in parentheses could be value 1, comma, value 2, comma, or you can click and drag a range to get your argument in. So what we're going to do is we're going to click and drag B2 through E2. We don't want to get the total in there, just B2 through E2, and press enter to get the average. And then on my screen, it pops up suggested autofill, right? So notice it's kind of filled in the average function for G3 through G6. And I want to keep that autofill so I don't have to drag the handle. So I'm going to do the check mark on that, and then it puts those numbers in pretty permanently. And I decided we don't want it in row 6. So that last one, I'm going to just click on that 260 and press delete on my keyboard. And then I'm going to go to cell G1 and I'm going to type regional, and I'm going to abbreviate averages to AVGS period. Those are my regional averages. So now what I'd like you to do, in cell A7, I'm going to have you type quarterly averages. And then in B7, I'd like you to use the average function to calculate the average of quarter 1. And then you can use the handle to drag it over to the other quarters. I'm going to have you kind of do that one on your own. You can pause the video and do it. And when you resume, I'll have it done on my end. When you're done, you'll see the divide by 0 error and D and E7, and that's because you can't divide by 0, and it uses division when it's calculating the average. So I'm going to select D and E7 and press delete. Once the numbers get filled in, I can actually drag over the average function then and not have to look at the error on the spreadsheet. And so now if you go to cell G5, the regional average for the South, we're going to drag its handle down to G7, and we're going to go to cell G6 and press delete. So this way we'll get our quarterly averages totals over here as well. It's all going to end up being the same number if you were to fill in the rest of the data. So now what we want to do is we want to select all of the numbers that we have except our averages. So all of the numbers, and I'm even selecting the blanks in quarter 3 and quarter 4. And this way we can format these numbers. We can format numbers from the format menu, which we're going to do. You can also do some number formatting from the toolbar. So in the toolbar, there's a $sign where you can format your numbers as currency or as percentages. And then you can decrease or increase the decimal places. And then you have more formats there, that 1, 2, 3 button, which has a drop down. So you can see the other types of numeric formats that you have available. So you can use the toolbar. This time we'll use the menu. I'm going to go to Format, Menu, hover over Number, and there's that same list from the drop down. Now, on that list, I want you to look at currency and look at the example of where the $sign is placed. The $sign is placed flush up against the left side of the number. And then for accounting, and it's just showing a negative there, but for accounting, the $sign is like left justified. I'm going to select accounting because I prefer all of my $signs to be left justified. And I'm good with the 2 decimal places there, right? And so if you wanted to, you can go back to Format, Number, and you can choose Currency there. And you can see how the $signs are flush up against the left edge of the number. For me, it's really, in my situation anyway, it's a personal preference. I prefer accounting, so I'm going to go ahead and change mine back to accounting. So now let's make believe that we just got our quarter 3 and quarter 4 numbers. So I'm going to go to cell D2 and let's see. I'm going to type 310 and then press enter, and in D3 I'm going to type 340, just keeping with our trend. I'm going to select those two and drag the handle down to D5. And you'll notice that the total now populated. It's not a 0 there. And in cell E2, I'm going to type 430, enter, 460, and then fill those down to E5. So now we have our totals. These totals over here updated, as did our averages. And the only thing we have to do now is grab our average function, and I'm going to just select C2 and drag it to D and E2. And then your regional averages are over here to the right as well. When it comes to previewing and printing a sheet, you can use your file menu and choose print at the bottom, or you can just do Control and the letter P to open the print settings dialog, where you'll see a preview of your work. On the right side, it lets you know by default it's going to print the current sheet. If we had cells selected on that sheet, we could choose to print just the selected cells. In my case, I'm on G12 and I want to print the sheet versus just that one cell. Have my paper size, all of that kind of stuff, right? On the right side, you have a formatting drop down where you can show grid lines or show notes, and we don't have either in ours. You can do the page order, alignment, all of that. And at the very bottom, you have a headers and footers section, which we are going to expand. You have the ability to add page numbers, workbook title, sheet name, current date, current time. We are going to check the box in front of workbook title. And now you can see on your preview that it has the title of the workbook in the upper left-hand corner in like the edit section. At the bottom, we can click on edit custom fields. And so you're seeing that workbook title in the left header section. So that both the header and the footer have left, center, and right sections. And you can come in here and pretty much type anything that you want. In the header center section where it says click to add text, I'm going to just type company name. So any generic company name. And in the right header section, I'm going to type accounting department, something like that. In the right footer section, I'm going to click where it says to add text. And you see those icons that pop up when you click in a section? The first one is page number. The second one is where I could insert the workbook title or the sheet name. The third one gives me the ability to add a date and select the date format. And the fourth one is for time, if you want that on a header or a footer. We're going to go to the first one, and we're going to choose page number B, the one that actually has the word page spelled out, and then the number. And it puts it in as a code. So if I added more sheets in this file before this sheet, the page number will adjust automatically. And then up in your upper right hand corner, you're going to click on the blue confirm button. And now you're still in print preview and you can see the work that you did from editing custom fields. Now in the upper right hand corner, you have a blue next button and we're going to click it. And this is where it gives you the ability to actually print. You get another preview here and you can change your printer settings and then just click the blue print button in the lower left hand corner. So now I'm going to actually cancel my print screen. I'm not going to physically print this out. And we're going to switch our focus to creating a chart. So the first thing I want you to know is when you're creating a chart, you have to tell it the data that you want in the chart. If you don't, it will select data and put it in the chart for you. So we're going to select from A1 through E5. So we want our regions, our quarters, and the mythical sales figures in our chart. And we're going to go to the Insert menu and click on Chart. So it automatically gives us a stacked column chart. It has a chart title of Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. You see that you have your East, West, North, and South as a legend underneath the title. And I can hover over any of those stacked columns. So I'm on the first one for East, the green one. And that's the East Q4 total is being represented there. I'm going to go to the ellipsis button in the upper right corner of the chart. And I'm going to choose Edit Chart. And that chart editor opens up on the right side again. So we're going to say that we don't want a stacked column chart. That's not the type of chart that we want. That's the default type that it gave us based on what we selected. So we're going to use that chart editor to change some of our setup options. So on the chart editor panel, the first thing that you run into on the setup tab is the chart type. And we're going to do the drop down next to stacked column chart. And it will make suggestions based on the data that you selected. Or you can choose a different type of chart on your own. So they're grouped by, there's several different types of line charts. There's area charts, column, bar, pie, scatter, map, other charts. And we're going to go with a suggestion. So if you have this suggested one, a regular column chart, if you don't have it suggested, you can go down to column and pick just the basic column chart. Either way will work. So the only difference between the suggested is it kind of shows your data. The other are just kind of like temporary placeholders. So I'm going to select the column chart under selected, and I like that better. And so it changed everything. It changed the legend to the quarters, right? So the East is all together, and there's its Q1, right? Q2 is red, so on and so forth. And then we don't want any stacking. The data range is there. It shows what's showing on your x-axis, right? Which is our regions. And then underneath x-axis, you have a box that you can check that says aggregate. Now look at the series underneath it, and you see how it has Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. When you check the aggregate box, it shows you that it's using the sum function, and we can do the drop down next to aggregate type if we want in the chart to see a different aggregate like average, max, median, min, so on and so forth. Down at the bottom, you can switch your rows and columns. and it's using row 1 as headers. So we've just reviewed the chart editor setup options. Now we're going to go to the Customize tab so we can review the chart editor customize options. And so the first thing we're going to expand is chart style, right? We can give our chart a background color, change the font, give it a border color, right? And you have some other things you can do in terms of the chart style. So I'm going to start by going to background color, and I'm going to use like a pale orange color, or a little bit paler than that. Yeah, I'll go with that one. A pale orange color. I'm going to leave the font the way it is. I'm okay with the font. I'm going to give my chart a border color, which is going to be a dark orange color. And underneath that, you'll see that you can reset your layout. So if you do a bunch of changes here and you don't like them, you can reset them. There are 3 check boxes. I'm going to check maximize, and you notice how it maximizes the columns in the chart. I'm going to uncheck maximize. I'm going to check 3D, and I'm going to leave that. Now these are check boxes, so I could have it maximized and 3D, but I don't want mine maximized. I like it in 3D though. Each column has a 3D effect on it. And then you have your third checkbox there, which is compare mode. Well, go ahead and click on compare mode. And I hover over a bar because of compare mode. So I'm hovering over the Q4 East column, and it's showing me the values for the other quarters for the East. That's what happens when you have compare checked. I'm going to go back to my ellipsis and go back to edit chart and back to customize. Going to expand chart style. So without compare mode, I'm going to uncheck it, click away from that. And when I click on the East green bar, it's just showing me the Q4 value for East, not the others. So compare mode is really cool. I'm going to go back to the ellipsis and get back to there, edit chart. And so I like having compare mode on. It just gives me more ability to analyze my data. I'm going to collapse the chart style section and expand chart and axis titles. And for my chart title, I'm going to go down and select that text, and I'm going to call it 2021 quarterly sales by region. So it updates the title on the chart. I'm good with the font and its size and its formats and all of that. I might want to change my title text color. I'm going to make it a really dark orange, and then I'll make it bold to stand out a little bit more. Maybe orange is not working there. I might go with a green color. That'll stand out. Yeah, and I'll leave it bold. So I just changed the color and made it bold. You have a series section, right, where you can format line colors and stuff like that. You also have the legend section. And in the legend section, it's the same. Where is the position of the legend? It's automatically at the top. I'm going to do the drop down and choose right. So it moved the legend over to the right side of my chart. You have a horizontal axis where you can change the labels and stuff like that. So here it's talking about east, west, north, south. And one of the things you can do with those labels, under slant labels where it says auto, I'm going to do 30 degrees. just adds a little bit more visual interest, I think. Again, this is personal preference stuff here. And then you have options for your vertical axis as well. And under that one, I'm going to check the box. So the vertical axis is where your numbers are on the left side of the chart. I'm going to check the box that says show axis line, and it gives you like a dividing line between the axis and the chart itself. You can also change your minimum and maximum values. So this is the thing. I'm going to just move my chart down a little bit. You know, we use the fill to get these numbers, and our highest number is 400, or actually 520, right? And this axis is starting with like 0 and going to 600, and that's pretty okay for our range of numbers. Sometimes you might want to change it so it looks better. And then I'm going to collapse that vertical axis section and expand grid lines and ticks. So it starts with the vertical axis here, and that's a drop line, so I could do for vertical or horizontal. And then I'm going to scroll down. So you notice you have different options for horizontal versus vertical. Vertical has major spacing types and major steps, minor spacing types, minor counts, major grid lines. If I uncheck that, you'll notice the grid lines disappear. And I'm going to recheck major grid lines. And I can also have minor grid lines, which I'm going to check. So you get those more faded out lines in between the major grid lines. If I scroll down, I can see major ticks. So here on your axis, on your vertical axis, you have those little cross hatches. Those are the major ticks, basically next to each value. And then it gives you the ability to change the tick's position and its length. I'm going to leave it on cross. And then you can have minor ticks as well, so you get subsequent ticks on your vertical axis. At this point, you can go ahead and close your chart editor panel by using the X in its upper right-hand corner. And we're going to select our chart, and we're going to do Control-C to copy it. And then at the bottom of your screen, you're going to do the plus sign to add a sheet, and it gives you sheet 2. It puts you in cell A1, and you're going to do Control-V to paste the chart onto this sheet. So for sheet 2, I want to rename the sheet. You'll notice next to sheet 2, there's a drop down, right? I can do all of these things, or I can just double click where it says sheet 2, and I'm going to do 2021 chart. And then for sheet 1, I'm going to rename sheet 1 to 2021 sales data. And on sheet 1, I'm going to select the chart and delete it. So I could have cut and pasted it, but I wanted you to know how to delete a chart as well. I'm going to go to our 2021 chart sheet and show you something else. I'm going to select the chart and then go to its ellipsis in the upper right. And from here, I could have moved the chart to its own sheet or made a copy of the chart as well. So I'm just so used to doing Control-C, Control-V, or Control-X, Control-V that I do it that way. But you do have built in on that side menu the ability to copy the chart or move it to its own sheet. And I'm going to go back to 2021 Sales Data tab so that now we can work with pivot tables. And so what we're going to do, again, just like with a chart, we're going to select the data that we want in the pivot table. And so we are going to select from A1 to E5. And we're going to go to the Insert menu, and we're going to choose Pivot Table. So in the Create Pivot Table dialog, it's confirming the sheet that you're on and the range that you have selected. And if you needed to change that, you could go over here and select the data range. And we want the pivot table to be on a new sheet. So we're going to go ahead and click Create. So pivot tables allow you to analyze your data because you have the ability to pivot your data in a multitude of ways. For example, you could switch columns and rows. You can add and remove fields, so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is over here on the right in your pivot table editor, you can see that it's showing, like I said, you're seeing the range there. And then you have suggested to add rows, columns, values, and filters if necessary. To the right, it's showing you what is in column A, right, which is our quarter information. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Add button next to Rows, and we're going to choose column A. So now we're seeing our regions as rows. Each region is in a row in our pivot table. Now you'll notice here that it's in ascending order, right, by alphabet. So east, north, south, and west. And we can do the drop down next to ascending, and your only other choice is descending there. To the right of that, you have it sorted by that column, right? And then it shows show totals. So that's why we have that grand total in row 6 on where our pivot table is being built. And by the way, if you close the pivot table editor, which we're going to do by using the X in its upper right hand corner, you can get it back by clicking that edit icon that's right underneath your pivot table. On our editor, we're going to add to values, and we're going to select Q1, and we're going to leave it as a default. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Go ahead, go back to Add Values, Q2. And notice as your pivot table is being built, you're seeing the sum of Q1, the sum of Q2. We're going to go ahead and add values again. And we're going to do Q3. And we might as well add Q4. And you notice next to values as, it's adding them as columns. Our other choice is to add the values as rows. We're going to leave them as columns. And so if we look in our editor, it's summarizing by sum, and it's show as default. You can show as a % of the row, % of a column, or % of grand total. We're going to leave it as default for all of those values. And now we don't want it to say sum of Q1, sum of Q2. We just want it to say Q1, Q2. I'm going to click on sum of Q1 in cell B1 and go up to the formula bar and just get rid of sum of. And I'd like you to do the same for the other quarters. And we can go ahead and close that pivot table editor window. And there you have your pivot table. Now I'm going to go back to edit for just one more moment. And just to point out that you have the ability to add filters at the bottom as well. We're not going to do that. I'm going to close the editor window. So basically, to pivot in the pivot table, you can swap your values to show in rows and your regions to show in columns. If we had more fields we were dealing with, we can add and remove other fields to our pivot table so we can look at the data in a host of different ways. And now you're going to learn how to create and use named ranges. But first, when we created the pivot table and we said to put it on a new sheet, it named the sheet tab Pivot Table 1. I'm going to double click that and just type 2021 sales pivot. And then I'm going to go back to the 2021 sales data sheet tab. So what is a named range and why would you want to use one? So named ranges make it easier to navigate to certain cells in your data set. And they can also make formulas and functions easier to understand. So let's start by doing this. Click on cell F2, where we have our East regional total. And when you look at the formula bar, it says sum of B2 through E2. It would be clearer if it said the sum of the East. And again, earlier, I showed you how you can use the name box, which tells you what cell you're currently on, to navigate to a different cell. So I can click in the name box and I can type A2 and press enter, and it will take me to that cell. There are a couple of ways that you can define a named range. I'm going to show you what I call the easy way first, or the quick way first. And what we're going to do is we are going to select B2 through E2. We're going to go to the name box. And when you click in there, it will select that range. And you're going to type East and press enter. So now if you click away from that and you select B2 through E2, it now says East in the name box as opposed to B2 colon E2. Now, the other thing is I can click on any blank cell anywhere, go to my name box drop-down arrow and choose East. And it will find and select those cells. So that's one way of creating a named range. We'll deal with the formula issue separately, but for right now, you learned how to name one range. Now, another way that we can name a range, instead of using the name box, go ahead and select B3 through E3. Right-click anywhere within your selection. And at the very bottom of this list, you're going to hover over View More Cell Actions, and you're going to choose Define Named Range. So it opens up a Named Ranges panel on the right, and we're going to call this one West. And so underneath, you'll see the other named range that we completed by using the name boxes on this list. But B3 through E3 is West, and we're going to be choosing Done. Now from here, I can add a range as well from that panel on the right. And this one, we're going to name it first. We're going to call it North. And then right underneath it, it's still using B3 through E3. To the right of that, you're going to choose Select Data Range. And you're going to go and select on your spreadsheet B4 through E4. And notice it updates over here on the right. And then you say OK. Go ahead and create the named range for the South region on your own. You can pause the video to do so. So I have my ranges in East, North, South, and West. It will put them in alphabetical order on that named ranges panel. And I'm going to go ahead and close that panel. And now let's go to cell F2 and just press delete. Type equal, and then I'm going to type the word sum, and I see the sum by itself, the sum function by itself on the list, right? So I'm going to click it on the list to get that function in. Now it's still giving me a hint. You can see the list where it has B2 through E2, but this time I'm going to start typing east. And your named ranges will show up on this function list as well. When I hover over east, it lets me know that it's on the 2021 sheet tab and it sells B2 through E2. So I'm going to just click on east and press enter. So now when I click on cell F2 and I look at the formula bar, it says sum of east, which is a lot clearer than B2 colon E2. And you can change your other regional totals by referencing the named range. So I'm going to click on F3, and this one I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to go up to the formula bar and just select B3 through E3, and I'm going to just start typing west, and it pops up on the list, and I can tab that in and press enter. So I have my east and my west sums. Go ahead and on your own do north and south, edit those functions. So named ranges make it easier to navigate to specific cells, as well as make functions and formulas a bit easier to understand. So our final lesson in this module is protecting sheets and ranges. So we're going to start by protecting a range. I want to select all of my data here on the 2021 Sales Data tab. And then I'm going to right click on my data, go down to View More Cell Actions, and over on the right choose Protect Range, which is the same place you'll go to protect the sheet. We're starting with the range. So I can enter a description for this range, and I'm going to say all 2021 sales data is my description. It's showing me the cells that I have selected. And then I can go to set permissions. So range editing positions. When you protect a range, it's normally because you want to restrict who can edit the range, right? Your only other choice is just show a warning when editing this range. So right now, only I can edit this range. If I do the drop down next to only you, I can do custom or copy permissions from another range. I'm going to select custom. So I can edit it. And down at the bottom, I'm going to add my alter ego self as someone else who can edit this range. And I'm going to choose done. So now it's giving me this pop-up that someone needs access to this. So I'll go ahead and share. So the thing is, when you protect a range or a sheet, the content cannot be changed, but it can be printed, copied, pasted, imported, and exported, right? So you only want to make sure you're sharing this with trusted people. Protecting the range is not like the best security measure that you can use. So because I'm myself and this is not shared with somebody else, I can change stuff. But other people that would come in, if they try to type on any of the cells that we had to select it will not allow them to do that. So only myself and alter ego can edit this data. I'm going to right click on any cell, go back to View More Cell Actions, and back to protect range. And this time I'm going to go to the sheet tab, right? So when you go to protect the sheet, it's the same thing. No one can change anything. Let's go to our 2021 sales pivot sheet. We'll do this one. Our 2021 sales pivot sheet, and here on the protected sheets and ranges panel, I'm going to change it from 2021 sales data to 2021 sales pivot. So same thing. No one will be able to change anything, but they can print, copy, paste, so on and so forth. For a sheet, you can say accept certain cells. So there are certain cells that you're letting people change, and the rest of the sheet, they can't change anything. So I'm not going to check that box. I'm going to choose set permissions. And I have the same permissions that I've used before. So my alter ego, and I'm going to do done. So protecting a sheet or protecting a range, you're using the same process. It just depends on what tab that you're on. And then I'm going to go to my 2021 sales data sheet. And I'm going to click on the protected sheets and ranges box. I'm going to click where it says all 2021 sales data. That's what the description I put in. Can edit. And I'm going to go to change permissions. And I'm going to uncheck alter ego. And choose done. So now only you can edit this range. And I'll do done on that panel. And that's how you protect sheets and ranges in Sheets. We started Module 4 using Google Sheets by going over the Sheets display screen, and then we started inputting data. We moved on to creating formulas and working with functions, and we actually worked with the Google Sheets function list as well. You learned how to format numbers and how to preview and print a sheet. And then we switched our focus and we created a chart. We then worked with the chart editor setup options and the chart editor customize options. We moved on to working with pivot tables. Then we created and used named ranges and ended this module by learning how to protect sheets and ranges. We'll go through 8 lessons in Module 5 when we begin using Google Docs. As usual, we'll understand its display screen, and you'll learn how to change the view of a document. We'll be inserting an image and page numbers into a document, and then move on to working with styles, using the document outline, collaborating with suggesting mode, and end by working with comments. I'm back in Drive, and from here, we're going to start our deeper dive into Google Docs. So I'm going to use the new button on the left, hover over Google Docs, and choose blank document. The Docs display screen has, of course, your rename box where you have untitled document, the ability to get to the Docs home screen, which you've seen before. And it also has the menu bar and the toolbar, which we used a little bit earlier. In addition, it has the same icons in the upper right-hand corner that you saw in Sheets. Because it's Docs, it doesn't have the column headers and the row numbers or sheet tabs at the bottom. But on the left side, it has an icon that when you hover over it, it says Show Document Outline. And you can select that now. And then to collapse it, you can use the left arrow button. And you do have a ruler. You have 2 rulers, actually. You have one right underneath the toolbar, and you have another one on the far left of your screen. So that we have some data, we're going to each type 2 short paragraphs and make them about 2 of your favorite things. It could be 2 foods that you love, 2 hobbies that you have. So I'm going to type mine, and you can pause the video, type 2 short paragraphs on your own, and then you can resume. I chose to go with 2 of my favorite hobbies. And so now you can see how we can change the view of a document. We're going to go up to the View menu, and I want to cover this menu in its entirety. However, we'll start at the top and hover over Mode. You can see by default you're in Editing View, the top choice. That's the default choice. So you're able to edit the document directly. Another mode is Suggesting Mode. Your edits will become suggestions, which can be accepted or rejected by the owner of the document. And you'll see that later in this module. And then Viewing Mode will allow you to read or print the final document. So we're in Editing Mode. We're going to skip Suggesting Mode for right now and click on Viewing Mode. So it gets rid of the toolbar at the top, the rulers are gone, stuff like that. And you can go back to View, hover over Mode, and go back to Editing. It's one way of doing it. Now, the other thing I'll mention here about switching modes is you can also do it from the right side of the toolbar. So there's an icon that has a pencil on it, and you can do the drop down next to it, and you can see you're back in editing mode, and each different mode has a different icon. So you can always look over there if you're unsure of what mode you might be in. Let's go back to the View menu. So Show Print Layout, you won't be able to see this right now unless we add a second page to this document. So let's temporarily do that. I'm going to just click away from the View menu. And underneath my last paragraph, I'm going to hold down my Control key and press Enter. So now I have 2 pages. And I'm on the second page, and you can see the edges of the page. So that's what print layout looks like. It's actually showing you what the document would look like if it was printed versus this. Let's go back to View and uncheck Show Print Layout. And now you have what's known as continuous. So I'm seeing the dividing line between the pages, but I'm not seeing the space between each page. And I'm going to use my backspace key to get rid of that second page, so the line disappears. And I'm back to View. I'm going to show Print Layout again and go back to View. So if you don't want to see the rulers, you can uncheck Show Ruler. Show Outline. If I uncheck that, that little icon that was on the left disappears. I'm going to go back to View and check Show Outline again and then collapse it. You also have an equation toolbar that you can show if you need to do any equations in Docs. You have this new equation toolbar that shows up underneath your regular toolbar. I'm going to go back to View and turn that off. And if you're working with a large document, you might want to break it into sections for a variety of reasons. And if you need to do so, you can find on the View menu, Show Section Breaks. Your last option there is full screen. So like I said, we'll circle back around to suggesting mode a little later in this module. Now we're going to add some images to our documents. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click at the end of the first paragraph and press enter twice. And then I'm going to go up to the insert menu, hover over image, and you can see your choices. You can upload from your computer, you can search the web, you can go to images on Drive, in Photos, you can do it by URL, and you can get images from a camera here as well. So we're going to do search the web. They have some really good Google images that you can use. And it opens on the right side and it's in the search box. And for myself, because my first hobby is that I love to garden, I'm going to type in garden. And you can type in something that correlates to whatever your first paragraph is about. And so when I click on garden in the search results, I get all kinds of images, some of which are like of my dream gardens. But I'm going to find an image that I kind of like, select it, and at the bottom right, click on the blue insert button. So I have a picture of someone else's garden underneath my first paragraph. I'm going to click at underneath my second paragraph. I already had space down there. And I am going to find an image, another image off of the web that correlates to that paragraph. And you can do the same and pause the video while you're doing it. So my second image created another page. It didn't fit on the first page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my first image and I'm going to just click on it to select it. And so you'll notice on the bottom left corner, there are a series of icons now. And they correspond to how the image works with any text on the screen. And so if you hover over the first one, which is the default, it's in line with the text. You could have the text wrap around the image, break the text, behind the text, or in front of text. We don't need to change that option. To the right of that, you have your image options ellipsis. And we're going to select that and choose size and rotation. So I want to change the size of both images, trying to get both of them to fit on the same page. If you notice on the right panel, the width is 6.5 and the height is 4 inches. I'm going to change the height. I'm going to just try this. I'm going to change the height to 2 inches. And then I'll see how it looks when it's 3 inches. And that might work. So now I'm going to do the same thing by going down and selecting my second image. And notice that panel stays open. And I'm going to change that height to 3 as well. And that's enough to get it on the same page. So we have 2 paragraphs and 2 images that correspond to our paragraphs. I'm going to name my document My Favorite Hobbies, and you can name yours whatever favorite things that you listed, my favorite foods or whatever it may be. And I'm going to go ahead and close Image Options panel on the right. Now we're going to move on to inserting page numbers in our document. And I'm going to go to the Insert menu for this as well. And almost toward the bottom, you'll see page numbers. And when you hover over it, you'll see 4 icons. Well, the 2 on the left show the page numbers on both the first page and any subsequent pages. The top left one is if you have the page numbers in the upper right corner, and the lower left one is if you have them in the lower right corner. On the right side, the top one is when you don't have a page number on the first page, but you have them on subsequent pages, and it's in the upper right. And the lower one is the same, but it will be in the lower right. And then you have more options and a page count, and we'll work through this menu. So the first one we're going to do is we'll select the first one on the left-hand side of those icons. And you can see at the top of your document, the header pane is expanded, and you see the page number in the upper right-hand corner. From there, in the header section, you can choose different first page or not, which means don't put one on the first page or put something different on the first page. And then you have your options drop down where you can format the header, get back to page numbers, or remove it. We're going to choose remove header for now. We're going to go back to insert page numbers. And this time we're just going to go directly to more options. So we're going to say we want the numbers to be in the footer. We will show them on the first page, and we're going to start at number 1, and we'll apply. So it opened a footer panel. And so, it's the same thing as choosing a preset, but I want to show you everything that happens here on that menu. Now, in your footer, after the number 1 that's down there, you're going to type a space and the word of and another space. And we're going to go back to insert page numbers. And this time at the bottom, we're going to choose page count. So now it'll be 1 of 1. And when we add another page, it'll be 2 of 2, that type of thing. And you can just click on any blank space on your document to get out of that footer section. So we worked with a style earlier in the course, and we're going to do so again for a particular reason. When you apply styles in your document, those styles feed your outline, your document outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in front of the first paragraph, press enter, and then my up arrow to get above it. And I'm going to type the name of my first favorite hobby. So I'm going to just type gardening. And then I'm going to just select the word gardening, and you can double click a word to select it. And by the way, you can triple click a paragraph to select it. So I just want the word. And from the toolbar, where it says normal text, that's your style, your current style, I'm going to do the drop down, and I am going to choose heading 2, and you can click directly on it to apply it. I'm going to click right in front of my second paragraph and repeat the process. And you want the same style for this paragraph. Now I'm going to use Control Home to get back to the very top of my document. I'm going to press Enter and then up arrow. And I'm going to just type the same thing that I named my file, my favorite hobbies. And so since I put it above gardening, it has the heading 2 style applied to it, but I want it to be a different style. So I'm going to just go to my style drop down. And for this one, I'll choose title. Now that we have our styles in our document, we can view our document outline over on the left. So you'll notice that all of your styles are what make up your outline. Outlines are really helpful when you're working with a large document because you can use it to navigate to different sections of the document based on your styles. So if I click on music, it takes me to that section of my document. And I notice my picture dropped down to a second page because of my heading again. If I click on gardening, it takes me there. And then my favorite hobbies is at the top. Now, I may not want this, the title of the document, in my outline. So if I want to, I can use the X to the right of my favorite hobbies and remove it from the outline. And conversely, if I wanted to re-add it to the outline, I could just right-click anywhere within it and choose Add to Document Outline. And it puts it back in its same position. And this is where you can also put in a summary of your document, a brief description, if you will. I'm going to click the plus sign to add a summary. And I'm going to say, this is a list of my favorite hobbies, something like that. And I can click away from it and it lets you know that the summary is saved. Now I can collapse that panel on the left again until I need it. So I said we would get to working with suggesting mode later in this module. So remember, your modes button is right under your share button on the toolbar. But I'm not going to put this document in suggesting mode at this time. I want to really be able to demonstrate this feature. So the first thing I want to do is I want to share this document with my alter ego. So I'm going to give alter ego editor permissions, but just so you know, if I give them commenter permissions, then when they open the document, it will already be in suggesting mode. But I'm going to leave it on editor. And I'm going to just send. I'm not even going to notify. I'm just going to send or share. So now I'm going to switch over to my alter ego account. I'm going to leave this account open and this document open in this account. I am going to actually scroll to the second page where my picture ended again. And then I'm going to switch over to my other account. And in my alter ego account, I can see I'm still in my Drive shared with me area. And that document pops up. So I'm going to just open that document by double clicking it. So it lets me know who I'm currently signed in as. I'm going to click OK. I'm in as alter. I am going to collapse the outline on the left. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go up to my mode icon on the toolbar and change it to suggesting. So I'm going to scroll down in the document. And what I want to do is I want to make sure both of these pictures fit on the same page. So I'm going to select the first one and I'm going to go to its image options button, size and rotation. And I'm going to make the height 2.5. And I'm going to go down to the second image and do the same and see if that places it on the same page. Yes, it does. So I have one page for that. Now close Image Options panel for a moment. And you can see what I've done here, right? So I don't want to accept this suggestion because I'm not the owner of this document, and that would be the check mark. So every time I make a change, I'll see a box like this. What I want to do is let Trish know that I've made an edit. So I'm going to use the @ symbol there, and it brings up Trish, and that's mentioning that person. And this is where it gets a little confusing. It's really, to me, it should be a send button, but it's reply that I have to click. And then I'm going to go down to the next, click on it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mention Trish and choose reply. And now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click after that second picture and press enter. So it gives me a new page and a new opportunity to type something else. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make believe that Alter is Trish's assistant, and Trish has asked her to type up the information about Trish's third hobby. And so I'm going to do that. You're going to add another hobby or food or whatever your favorite thing was, another paragraph, and a supporting image. And then you can resume the video. So on my end, I gave it my heading 2 style for reading, typed a paragraph, and then inserted a picture, which I changed the size of. I mentioned Trish for everything that I did. Now, these are just suggestions, and they show in Alter's document. But I'm going to switch back over to Trish. And when I do, it's automatically showing me all of Alter's information. And this is where I, as the owner, can say that I can accept or reject these changes. And so I'm going to go down and I'm going to just do the check marks for everything to accept the suggestions rather. And now in my version of the document, it's the same as the suggestions, what I had originally, and the suggestions that Alter made using suggesting mode. Pretty cool. So something else I want to show you here. If you look up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see I'm in as Trish. I have a blue number 1 up there. And when I hover over it, it says Open Comment History. So when I do that, I can see all the suggesting comments that I received from Alter Ego. I can go to its More Options button and get a link to this comment is basically what I could do there. And so if I hadn't gone through and done the check marks, all of these would still be considered open, right? When I was paused, I did a suggestion and I messed it up, so I rejected it. But everything else is saying that the suggestion was accepted, that Alter did. Now, up at the top, there's a drop down next to all. So if I had any open things that I haven't reviewed to accept, they would show under open. I'm going to just go back to all. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can use comments other than in suggesting mode. I'm going to click away from that. The way that I normally use to start a comment, you'll notice if you put your mouse on the right border of your page, as you move it up and down, you'll see the same 3 icons. The top one is to add a comment. The second one is to add an emoji reaction. And the third one puts you in suggesting mode, right? So I'm going to be as close to this picture of a garden as I can be. And I'm going to do the plus sign next to add comment. So I can have a comment for myself. I can add others to comments, right? By using the mention, the @ symbol to mention them, right? I'm going to just do a comment to myself, and it's going to be, try to find a garden pic that looks more like mine. And I'm going to choose comment. So that's there for me to see. If I hover over its check mark, it says mark as resolved and hide this discussion. If I go to its more options, I can edit it, delete it, or get a link to this comment. I'm going to choose edit. And I'm going to click at the beginning of the comment, and I'm going to mention alter ego. And I'm going to change my sentence and say, would you please try to find a garden pic that looks more like mine? And I'm going to choose save. So I switch back over to alter ego, and you can see the comment because I was mentioned in it. And would you please try to find a garden pic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to click on that comment and reply. Well, actually, I'm going to use one of the presets underneath. Will do. And then I'll put by Tuesday and reply. And so I look up and I see my notification that I have a new comment. I go to open my comment history. Now I can see it on the screen there quite well as well. I can open it in comment history as well. And so for these types of comments, I have the ability to edit, delete, resolve, or get a link. The ones that were suggestions, I just get resolve and get a link to this comment. But a good way of communicating back and forth with a document. So Alter says that she'll find this picture and get it done by Tuesday. Tuesday, she'll find a picture and go into suggesting mode. And then I'll get that notification and accept or reject whatever photo she chooses. In this module, we got a better understanding of Google Docs. We started by reviewing its display screen. We typed a couple of paragraphs, and then we went through the different views that you have in a document. We learned how to insert images and resize them. We moved on to inserting page numbers and customizing them. And then we worked with styles, which we then saw populated our document outline, which can be used in long documents for navigational purposes or even shorter documents. And then we moved on to collaborating with suggesting mode. You saw that from both sides of the equation. We shared the document, went to the other user, they went into suggesting mode, made some changes, which were accepted by the owner. And we ended up working with comments. In Module 6, we'll explore Google Slides over 9 lessons. We'll start as usual by understanding its display screen, learning how to change the view of a presentation. We'll enter text in a slide, add an image to a slide, and then you'll learn how to add, delete, and reorder slides. We'll make our presentation more visually appealing by applying a theme in Lesson 6. And we'll increase audience engagement in Lesson 7 by adding transitions and animations. In Lesson 8, we'll focus on delivering a presentation, and we'll end by using presenter view and audience tools. If I'm working in Google Docs and I want to go to Google Slides, I can just go to Docs Home, and that's where you'll see the apps menu in the upper right. So I'm going to use the apps menu, and this time we're going to select slides. We're going to select the blank presentation template. Just like docs and sheets, we have our untitled presentation in the upper left corner, our rename box. We can star this if we wanted to show in the star area of Drive. And that's, you star things that are important to you. It does have a menu bar, although some of the options are a little bit different here, like you have a slide menu. And it has a toolbar, which is somewhat different from what you've seen previously. All of these things adjust, the menu bar and the toolbars adjust depending on the application. The upper right side of the screen, you still have your arrow that says this new file has not been saved yet. You have your comment history, Google Meet, and then here you have slideshow. You can start a slideshow right from here or from the menu. You have sharing your account as usual. And then you have that sidebar with some other apps, and I'm going to go to the bottom of that and collapse that panel. On the right side, when you go into a blank template, it gives you a themes panel on the right, and we're going to close that for now, just to gain some more working space. Similar to docs, you have a ruler at the top and at the left side. This area in the middle of the screen is where you create your slides and you fill them in. And on the left side, you have what's known as film strip view. And you'll see how to use that as we go along. At the bottom of the film strip panel, you'll see a couple of icons. The first one, and you'll notice it has a horizontal black line going across the top of it. And that's when you hover over it, it says film strip view. The other icon is grid view. You can go ahead and click on that, and it takes you to a different view. Let's go back to film strip view. We'll use grid view later in this module. Right underneath your slide template, you have an area that says click to add speaker notes. When you're doing a presentation, which you'll learn how to deliver a presentation later in this module, you would be able to see speaker notes in what is called presenter view. Your audience won't see them. So you can use speaker notes to have reminders of what you'd like to say while a particular slide is on the screen or other information. If I want to hide the film strip, I can use that left pointing arrow at the bottom, and that gains me more working space. And then I can show it again, and I'm going to leave that showing. Now we're going to start entering text in slides. So when you bring up a new blank presentation, it gives you a slide with a layout known as a title slide. So it says click to add title and click to add subtitle. We're going to click where it says click to add title, and we're going to type Workspace Collaboration. And then we'll click where it says click to add subtitle. And I'm going to type presented by, colon, and then my name, for, and then Learnit. And then I can click away from that. And so I have a slide, one slide in a presentation at this point. Now we want another slide. So I'm going to go to the slide menu and choose new slide. And you see the shortcut key for that is Control M. I'm going to just click on new slide. And this time it gives you a layout that's different than the one we just saw. This is called a title and body layout. So when you use Control M or New Slide, that's the layout you're going to get. And it will work for us in this example. So I'm going to click where it says click to add title. And the title is going to be Modules 1-4 Topics. And notice the title on this type of a layout is in smaller font than the previous one. On the second box where it says click to add text, I'm going to click there. And this is the body portion of the layout. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the toolbar and I'm going to select the numbered list. So it gives me the number 1, and I'm going to type using Google Drive. Press enter, you'll get the number 2. Collaborating. And notice it gives me a suggestion, collaborating with. Well, I don't want with, but I'm going to press tab anyway to select that. And it's going to be collaborating in Google Drive. Enter. Working with common features. And the last one is using Google Sheets. And these are the topics for this particular course. Now at this point, we want another slide with the same exact layout as our current slide, and also with a numbered list on the bottom portion. So instead of using new slide, what you can do, and what I usually do, is in the film strip on the left, I'm going to right click on slide 2, and I'm going to choose duplicate slide. So now I'm on slide 3, which is exactly like slide 2. On slide 3, I'm going to change the title. So from modules 1-4, it's going to be 5-8. And then for the numbered list, for the first item, do Control A to select everything that's in there and press delete on your keyboard. Now it leaves you with the number 1. We want these numbers to be 5-8. So we're going to fix that first, and then we'll put in the other 4 topics. And we're going to do that by going to the Format menu, hover over Bullets and Numbering, hover over List Options, and choose Restart Numbering. And we're going to type in the number 5 and press enter or click OK. So now we're ready to type the topic for module 5, which is using Google Docs. And 6 is going to be using Google Slides. So you can see where we are in the overall course. We have using Google Forms. And last but not least, using Google Meet. And you can click anywhere outside of that box. If you click on a blank area of the slide, then nothing is selected. Let's talk about changing the view of a presentation now. So slideshow is a view, and you know you have your slideshow button in the upper right corner. And if you click directly on the button, it will load the slideshow and it will display the slide that you're currently on in your presentation. You can press Escape to get out of the slideshow. If we want to start the slideshow from the first slide, we can go to the slideshow drop-down arrow and choose Start from Beginning. And it gives you the shortcut key combination for that, Control-Shift-F5. So when I click on that, it will load it with the first slide. And it's set so that every time I click, it will display the next slide. When I'm on the last one, I can just press Escape to exit the slideshow. And now let's go to the View menu. See what options we have there. Well, you have your slideshow on there, and that shortcut key is for start the show, whatever slide you're on. Motion and theme builder, we will circle around to later in this module. Grid view, and you see that it's on the view menu. Also, you have that icon below your film strip. And let's go ahead and select grid view. Grid view is another way of looking at your slide presentation. So you're seeing kind of like all of the little mini slides on the same screen at the same time. This is a good view, and we'll use it later. It's a really good view for reordering slides. And if I want to get out of this view, I'm going to use the film strip icon in the lower left-hand corner to go back to the default view. Let's go back to the view menu. If you don't want to see the rulers, you can uncheck Show Ruler. If you hover over Guides on the right side, you can select Show Guides. And so it kind of segments your slide. So if you were going to add more content, it gives you a framework or a structure to work in. Let's go back to View. And then you have Snap To. When you're placing items on a slide, it will kind of, when you're near a guide in this case, it will kind of make it snap to that area. You'll feel a little tug and it just kind of takes it where it needs to be in that area. The reason why we're seeing speaker notes at the bottom is for this next option. It's showing the film strip. And if we have any comments, they would show as well. And then you have the ability to zoom and the ability to view it in full screen. And you can select full screen. So everything is hidden except the slide that you're on. And it tells you at the top that you can press Escape to go back to your regular view. And then go ahead and click on your first slide. We're going to add an image to this slide, and we're going to use the Learnit logo that we've already uploaded to Google Drive. We're going to go to the Insert menu, hover over Image, and choose Drive. And the only image I have in Drive, I believe, is that Learnit logo. And that's the image that I want to use. So there's a couple of different ways that I can get this image onto the slide. And which way you choose depends on what happens next. Now, the first way I'm going to show you is the way I would do it if I had multiple images in my Drive that I wanted to add somewhere in this presentation. And that would be if I click and hold on the Learnit logo and drag it and drop it in the lower left-hand corner of the slide. When I use drag and drop, the panel on the right stays open. And so I'm going to do Control Z to undo that. And I'll show you the second way. This way, I'm going to click on it, and at the bottom, I'm going to choose Insert. And it inserts it, and it closes the panel. And then I'm going to move it so it's all the way in the lower left-hand corner. And I just put my mouse on the border of it so it has the four-headed arrow. We're going to be adding more images to different slides a little later in this module. Before we start adding, deleting, and reordering slides, let's go back to our View menu, hover over Guides, and uncheck Show Guides. So now we are going to, in the film strip on the left, we're going to right-click on the first slide, choose New Slide, and then right-click on the new slide, hover over Apply Layout, and we would like the section header layout here. So it just gives you a title box that you can use as a section header, maybe describing the upcoming section or something like that. And where it says click to add title, we're going to just type modules 1-4. Now we want to insert some images, and I'm going to, for some reason I have the format options pane open on the right. I'm going to close that. We're going to insert 2 images on this slide. We want the logo for Google Drive as well as the logo for Google Sheets. Those are the 2 applications that we really focused on in modules 1-4. And so from the insert menu, just like we did with the Learnit logo, we're going to hover over image and this time search the web. I'm going to type in the search box Google Drive logo and then select the first one on the list. And I'm going to select the first one that shows up and choose Insert. I'm going to click on a blank area of the slide, go back to Insert Image, search the web, and this time I can just double click the word Drive and type Sheets. So the Google Sheets logo. And I'm going to grab the first one and insert. Now I would want both logos to be the same size, and I like the size of the one for Drive. So I'm going to first right click on the Drive logo, go to Format Options, and you can see the width and the height, 2.02 inches for both for me. I'm going to click on the Google Sheets logo and change its width and height to 2.02. And then I'm going to put my mouse in the center of it so I get the 4-headed arrow, and I'm going to just drag it down to the lower right corner. And you'll see the guides that start showing up as I'm dragging it, like that horizontal red line is showing me that they're now aligned by their centers. And they're different shapes, so I'm kind of wanting them to be aligned by their bottoms. I'm going to drag the Google Drive one down all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to hold down my Control key and click on the Google Sheets icon. And so now they're both selected. And I can go to the Arrange menu, hover over Align, and choose Bottom. So they're different shaped logos, but they're now aligned by their bottoms. And then we're going to make a duplicate of this slide. And we're going to change the title to 5-8. And I'm going to show you another way of selecting multiple icons. So notice where my mouse pointer is. It's slightly above and to the left of the Drive icon, and it's pointing to the left. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag and draw a box around both icons, and now they're both selected. And I'm going to press Delete on my keyboard. So this slide is going to end up having 4 different icons on it. We'll do the first 2 together, and then you can do the last 2 on your own. So we want to grab the logo for Docs first. I'm going to just go back to Insert Image, search the web, change Sheets in the search box to Docs. And I'm going to grab the first Docs logo and insert it. I'm going to immediately right-click on it, go to Format Options, and change its width and height to the same as the previous ones. In my case, it was 2.02 for both measurements. And I'm going to go ahead and drag that icon all the way down into the lower left corner. Click on a blank area of your slide, Insert Image, Web. We're going to change Docs to Slides here and grab the first Slides logo, insert it. And I'll let you go ahead and change its size on your own to match the size of the previous one. And when you have the size right, just drag it down to the right of your Docs logo. So you have 2 more to insert and size, and that would be Forms and then Meet. And so once you do Forms and Meet, go ahead and pause the video and get those logos in and sized. Then you can unpause and resume. So don't worry about the spacing or the alignment right now of these icons. We're going to address that momentarily. We should go ahead and rename the file from Untitled. When I click in there, Workspace Collaboration is great as a name. So just want to make sure we do that. And then I'm going to draw a box around all 4 of those logos. And I'm going to go to the Arrange menu. And the first thing I'm going to do is hover over a line and choose Bottom. Go back to Arrange. And I'm going to hover over Distribute and choose Horizontally. So you see it gave it equal spacing between each icon. And now let's duplicate that slide that you're on. And then we say, oh my goodness, I did that totally by accident. I don't really need that slide. So in your film strip, you can right-click on the duplicated slide and you can choose Delete. You could also select the slide and press Delete on your keyboard to have the same effect. And if you delete a slide by accident, you can undo the deletion. I'm going to switch to Grid View, and I'm going to use the handy little icon underneath the film strip to do so. Now, you can do it in film strip view as well, but I'm in the habit of when I have to reorder slides of using this view. I feel like I can see more of the slide thumbnails in this view. And so what I'm going to do is we want that module 5 through 8 section header with the icons on it to be in between slides 4 and 5. And so I'm going to click and hold on it, and I'm going to drag it down. And as I drag it around, you'll see a guideline. And when that guideline, that vertical guideline is between slides 4 and 5, I'm going to let go. So the section header is in the appropriate place in this presentation now. And I can use the button on the lower left to go back to film strip. And like I said, you can do the same thing, move things around in this view. However, let's say you have a slide presentation with 20 slides or 15 slides. You're not going to see all of them here, whereas you'll be able to see more in grid view. But this is just a personal preference. It is not a requirement of the application by any means. To give our presentation more visual appeal, we're going to apply a theme to it. And we're going to do that from the slide menu. And down at the bottom, we're going to choose Change Theme. And so the Themes panel opens on the right side. And there are, you notice at the top, it says in this presentation, right? And I can expand that. So these are themes that are available, different colorations, different fonts, in some cases, even different font colors. And so these are built-in themes that you can use. Now, some themes behave in different ways. And it depends on the slide layout, as you'll see. And so what I'm going to do on the right side in themes, I'm going to just select this theme here. It's called Paradigm. And I'm just going to select it by clicking on it. Now notice it applied that theme. It's slightly different on a title slide, right? It looks even different on the section header slides with those layouts. And then the title and body slides, if you click on slide 3 over there, you can see how it made this kind of into 2 columns and it put the design in the title on the left side. So that's an example of a theme. I'll go back to slide 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different theme. I'm going to choose this one. It's the orange one. It's called Swiss. And so this one, you can see how it looks on the title slide, how it looks on the section header slides. And then it didn't really, it applied some of the graphics, the lines, to our title and body slide layouts. And we can almost live with that. However, we would like to have some color on those slides. To do that, we're going to go back to the slide menu. And almost at the bottom this time, we're going to choose Edit Theme. And you get this whole different view. And at the top of it, it says Editing Swiss. That's the name of the theme, right? And it's showing you here that the title and body layout is used on 2 slides. Because I was on that slide when I came in here, it's on that layout on the left. So you see we have the coloration for these 2 layouts, but not for this one that's selected on this left pane. And we want to give it some coloration. And so there's a little toolbar, and it has background and colors at the end of it. We're going to choose background, and we're going to do the color drop down. And I don't want it to be the exact same color, but I want it to be like a pale orangey color. And I don't like that one, so I'm going to try this one. I'm actually going to do custom, and then that way I can kind of mix the color a little bit better here. It's going to be more browny than orange. And I'm going to choose OK. I could use an image in the background, or I can reset it to the theme from here. I'm going to do done, and I'm comfortable with that contrast. So if you look at your film strip, you'll see that those 2 slides, the title and body slides, now have that color. And so I can close this middle panel where we're editing by using its X. And now I'm back in my presentation. And to be honest with you, I'll probably go and change that color. I'm looking at it now and I don't like it. And so I did change it. So the color is consistent. Really, when you're thinking about a presentation, less is more. And you'll see that in upcoming lessons. Transitions are effects that the audience will see when you advance from one slide to another during a presentation. Animations, on the other hand, happen on the slide. We're going to start with transitions. So typically, I will use one transition, the same exact transition, for all of the slides in my presentation, just to keep it very spare. Also, it helps to keep the audience's attention. Imagine you had 50 slides and you use different transitions between them, or a mix of different transitions between them. At some point, your audience is going to start thinking, I wonder what cool thing is going to happen when he or she advances to the next slide, instead of paying attention to the content of your presentation. So I'm just going to use one transition for all slides. And we're going to do that by right-clicking on the first slide in the film strip and choosing Transition. And that opens the motion panel on the right. So you notice it says there are no transitions. We're going to do the drop-down arrow next to none, and we'll go through a few of these. And we'll choose Dissolve. Right underneath that, you will see the speed of the transition, and then you have a button that says Apply to All Slides. And if you look over in your film strip, to the left of each slide thumbnail, you'll see the motion icon indicating that that slide has a transition applied to it. Now what we can do, I'm going to just go up and click on the slideshow button. And now when I click or press enter to advance to the next slide, you'll see that the previous slide had the dissolve effect. When I click again, you'll see the same effect. And I'm going to just press escape to exit the slideshow and click back on the first slide. Let's test a few more transitions. So on the right side, I'm going to do the drop down next to dissolve. And let's look at cube. And again, you're going to apply to all slides and then click your slideshow button. Go ahead and click, and you can see the cube effect. Let's press escape, click on the first slide, and we'll try one more. I'm going to go to the drop down and select gallery, apply that one to all slides, and play my slideshow. And I think I like the gallery effect. So I'm going to press escape, click on the first slide, and we have our transitions. So now we're going to switch our focus to animations. We're going to add animations to the second and fourth slides. So I'm going to go to the second slide. And what I want to do is I want to select both of those logos on the bottom. And this is where we can make a decision. I'm making the decision to animate both of these logos at the same time. You could do them one at a time, and I'll show you that example when we get to slide 4. On the right side, we're still using the same motion panel that we use for transitions. And we're going to choose under Object Animations, Add Animation. So you'll notice the two separate animations. Even though we group them together, the first one will happen when we click. So if we click to advance the slide and then we click again, the drive icon will fade in. And so will the sheets icon, because it's set to fade in, and it's going to fade in with the previous one. So they'll fade in together is what that is saying. Now, for the first one, the drive fade in, I'm going to do the drop down next to fade in after I expand it. And you can see the other animation effects that are available. So I tend to use no more than 2 object animations. And in a situation where I'm only doing the animations on 2 slides, I prefer to use the same animation. And so it's not distracting to the audience. So it defaults to fade in, and I am going to select Appear. And so the first one, the drive one, will appear when you click on the slide after the slide has advanced. And then the second one is still with previous, and we're going to leave that one on click. Your other choice there is after previous or with previous. So we're going to leave that one on click. And for our sheets icon, I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to change it to appear, and I'm going to leave it set with previous. I'm going to go to the first slide first, and then click on slideshow. And so when I click on this one, it has that gallery transition, and now I'm on the second slide. When I click on this slide, both of those icons appear, and we can escape. And let's go to slide 4. So since we applied a style, our icons are a little bit too big, and we'll go back to slide 2. I'll have you do that on your own after we do it on this slide and apply the animations. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this title box up a little bit. And by the way, when you have an object selected, you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard to move that object around. And since I moved it away, I am going to then select these 4 icons at the bottom. I'm going to right click on any one of them and choose Format Options. So I want to change the height of these. Because I have them all selected, it's saying the width is 10. But I would like the height to be like 1.50. Well, I'm going to deselect it first and look. I wanted to make sure that each of them were above that white line that's part of the theme. I'm going to click on the title again, click on the edge of it, use my down arrow to move it back down. So now that we have the smaller icons, we are going to still select all of them, close the Format Options pane on the right, and your motion panel is still open. And so we, just like on slide 2, we're selecting all of these objects that we want to animate. We're going to click on Add Animation, and this is where we can separate them. So I'm going to use the same animation for each one. So for the first one, which is docs. I'm going to expand it. The animation type for this one, I'll try, let's see, fly in from bottom. And I'd like to do that one on a click. For the next one, which is slides, we're going to change it to fly in from bottom. And instead of with previous, we're going to say on click. So until you click, the next icon won't show. So they'll be treated as individual animations. Go ahead and choose the same animation and the same method of animation for the remaining two icons. And let's click on slide 3 and start our slideshow. So go ahead and click to advance. When you click the first time, you'll get the docs icon. Click again, you get slides. Again, and you're getting forms. Again, and you get meet. And when you click again, it will advance to the next slide. And you can press escape. And you can also close the motion panel. Let's go to our first slide. And at the bottom, we're going to click where it says click to add speaker notes. Now, if you put your mouse in the middle of that panel right above there, you'll see 3 dots. You can actually increase the size of that area and decrease the size of your slide. Depends on how many notes you want to type in. We're not going to type in very many. So on this one, I'm going to type introduce yourself. Remember, the audience doesn't see speaker notes. And remember to cover housekeeping issues. And in parentheses, I'll put restrooms, phones, silent, etc. And so this is a note to the presenter, just a reminder of something that you want to discuss, or, certain topics that you might want to delve into for a slide. So you don't have to have a piece of paper, and you'll see how this works. Now, you already know how to deliver a presentation, right? Why don't we go ahead and run through our entire slideshow? So we're not seeing our speaker's notes. This would be the screen that your audience would be seeing. And then I'm going to click, and I've got my nice transition there. I'm going to click again, and on this slide, we have both logos coming up at the same time based on one click. And we have to go back and resize those. Then I click again, and I advance again. And then on this slide, when I click, each icon will show individually. And then I advance again, and I'm at the end of the slideshow. So I can go ahead and press escape. Now, I've already gone to slide 2 and resized my icons. I'm going to move my Excel icon over a little bit. So I gave them the height of 1.50, and you can do the same. And now we're going to start using presenter view and audience tools. So once you get your icons adjusted, I'm going to go to the first slide. And I'm going to do the drop down arrow to the right of the slideshow icon. And at the top of the list is presenter view. So let's go there. So this window, if you're working, you have a monitor or a flat screen, or you're projecting the actual slideshow, which is here behind the screen for the audience, this can be on your other monitor. And this way, this is the presenter view window. And so on the left, it shows you how much time has elapsed since you started the slideshow. It lets you know that you're on the first slide, and it has a thumbnail of the first slide. Underneath that, it's showing you a thumbnail of the next slide. And again, your audience will never see this. On the right side, you have two tabs. You're on the Speaker Notes tab. We put a speaker note on slide 1, and you can see the note there. And you can use the plus sign to zoom in to make your note enlarged so you can view it better if necessary. We didn't put notes on any of the other slides, but this is how you can see them and not the audience members. So what I can do when I'm in presenter view, when I'm ready to advance, I can choose next. And you're seeing in the background, it's showing the slide without the animations on it. But on presenter view, it's showing each animation and it's saying next, right? So if I click on that, then you'll see both icons on the slide for the audience. And now it's showing me the third slide, so I'm going to click next here. And you're seeing the transition effect that we used. And I'm going to continue to click next. And so this one, when I do next, I get the docs icon, then I get slides, then I get forms, and then I get meet. And next. And now I'm on the last slide. So I can, at this point, let's go to the Audience Tools tab. And I'm going to use this list here to navigate back to slide 1. Audience Tools allows you to enable audience Q&A. And it's kind of cool how it works. So you may have just a Start New button on the right. I'm going to click on Start New. And it tells me that it's accepting questions from within my organization. And I can do the drop down there and change it to anyone. It has a link there that the audience will see at the top of every slide. And it's an active link. So anyone who is viewing this presentation, in my case, from within my organization, will be able to ask a question by clicking that link. So I accidentally closed my presenter view window. So I'm going to go back to my slideshow dropdown and go back into presenter view. And I'm going to go back to the Audience Tools tab. So this is when I can continue the recent one. And it comes up and I can just click on Continue. And you'll see it places the link at the top of every slide. So anybody within my organization can use the link. And I'm going to do this by just dragging this down, this window down a little bit, and I'm going to click that active link at the top of the slide. So what I can do here is I can just click on my account and sign in as my alter ego and ask a question. So when I'm asking a question, I have the opportunity to ask anonymously or not. I'm going to leave it unchecked. And I'm going to just say, do you have to use video in Google Meet? And I'm going to submit my question. So it shows my question to me. Now I'm going to switch back to my other tab where I'm running the slideshow. I'm going to press Escape. I'm going to go back to the slideshow dropdown, Presenter View, Audience Tools, Continue Recent, Continue. And this is how the question would show for anyone that is viewing this presentation. So Alter Ego didn't post anonymously, right? Or anything like that. So I'm the presenter and I'm looking at presenter view and this question pops up. And when it's an appropriate time during the presentation, I will answer the questions. I'll read the questions out and answer them. So in this module, we created a presentation using Google Slides. We started by reviewing its display screen. We learned how to change the view of a presentation, and we did that after we entered text in some slides. We added an image to a slide and moved on to adding, deleting, and reordering slides before applying a theme to make our presentation more visually appealing. And then we added transitions and animations to our presentation. We went through delivering our entire presentation and then ended by using presenter view and audience tools. In Module 7, we'll be using Google Forms in 6 lessons. As usual, we're going to understand the Forms display screen, and then we'll create a form, add questions, send a form, link to a spreadsheet, and we'll end up by you learning how to view responses. So I've gone back to the Google homepage. And by the way, when you're using the menu, if you click on search, it will take you to this page. I'm going to use the menu and go almost all the way to the bottom, and that's where you'll find forms. And when we get in there, you're going to click the blank template. Just like other apps that we've used, in the upper left-hand corner, you can easily get back to the Forms homepage. You have your rename box, and you have your star if you want to star anything that's important to you. So it goes in the starred folder in Drive, as well as in your My Drive. On the upper right in Forms, you have a different set of icons. The first one that looks like a palette you can use to customize your theme. The second one that looks like an eyeball will take you into preview mode where you can preview your form. Then you have your undo, redo, and send icons. You also have a more ellipsis. And from there, you can make a copy of a form, get a pre-filled link, print, add collaborators, so on and so forth. Underneath all of that, you're on the Questions tab. That's the default tab that you'll be on when you come in. Your Questions tab is where you're going to create the questions for your form. You can also add titles and sections to your form, and you'll get an example of sections here. when we start adding our questions. Then you have the Responses tab, which we will visit a little bit later. And you also have a Settings tab. So when you use the blank template, it gives you an untitled form header section where you can also put a form description, and it gives you one untitled question block. On the right side of your screen, you'll have like a sidebar, and it travels with all the questions that you add to your form. So on that sidebar, you have the ability to add a question, to import questions that may exist on other forms you've created, to add a title and description block, to add an image, video, and also a section. And in your lower right-hand corner, you have your question mark where you can seek support and also give feedback. Let's click where it says Untitled Form. And you're going to want to do Control A because it's placeholder text, but if you don't do Control A and select it, it will continue to stay in there. So we are going to name this form Google Workspace Survey. And the form description is going to be used to decide if our organization will switch to Google Workspace. Something like that. Now you notice underneath that you can select any text in either of those two boxes and format it. Insert a link. You can even do number formatting and bulleted formatting. And then you can remove the formatting if necessary. Now, before we deal with the untitled question, we are going to insert a section. So using the right sidebar, Add Section is the last icon. We're going to go ahead and click it. And now what we want to do is click on the untitled question, and you'll notice the 6 dots in the upper center of that question. If you put your mouse on those dots, it will allow you to move the question. We're good with where the question is. If we wanted to move it, we could just slide it up and down by using that arrow. So now we're going to deal with our section, which will make our series of questions a little bit more understandable. So in that untitled section, I'm going to do Control A. And I'm going to type, please rate these Google apps by how often you use them. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put 1 equals don't use, semicolon, 5 equals use daily. And close the parentheses and put a period. And so with the section, you'll notice the first section is the header. And underneath that now, since we inserted another section, it says after section 1, continue to next section. There's a drop-down arrow to the right of that, and you can make a different choice here, but the default choice is what we want, continue to next section. So in section 2, we have the section header. You notice it says there the description is optional. And for the section header, it has a more ellipsis to the right. And you can see that you can duplicate the section, move it, delete it, or merge with the above section. We're not going to put in a description. We're going to go down to our first untitled question. And the untitled question, you're simply going to type Gmail. And then notice the answer type over on the right was multiple choice, and it automatically switched to short answer. Doesn't really know what we're looking for. We're going to do the drop down arrow next to short answer, and we're going to select linear scale. and it defaults to 1 to 5, which is what we want. And we're going to give the 1 and the 5 labels that mirror what we put in the parentheses in the section header. So the first label next to the 1 is going to be don't use. And next to 5, we're going to have a label that says use daily. At this point, we have 6 more apps that we want to put on this form with the same linear scale, same labels and everything. So instead of using the plus sign to add a question on the right sidebar, at the bottom of your Gmail question, you're going to hover over the 2 pieces of paper and we're going to duplicate that question. And then all we have to change is the name of the app, and this will be Sheets. We're going to duplicate Sheets, and it's going to be Docs. I'm going to duplicate Docs and type Slides. Duplicate Slides, type Forms, and we have 2 more, and I'm going to have you do them on your own by pausing the video. So you want to duplicate Forms and have a question for calendar and another question for contacts. So just to make sure you have them all, it's Gmail, Sheets, Docs, Slides, Forms, calendar, and contacts. And notice as I'm scrolling that sidebar is traveling to the right of every question. And so on the sidebar, we have the contacts question selected. On the sidebar, we're going to add another new section. And this section is going to be, I'm going to click where it says Untitled Section, do my Control A to select that text. And I am going to type, please select any additional apps you currently use. And again, we're not going to put in a description for that. What we're going to do is go over and we're going to add a question using the sidebar. And this question, we want to make it, if you look at the answer type first, it defaults to multiple choice. We're going to do the drop down and we're going to select checkboxes so they can have more than one thing selected. The question, we're just going to put apps, and then we're going to click where it says option 1. And when you click there, it should select all of that text. And we're going to type chat. I can use my down arrow for it to go down to and select option 2 for me. And option 2 is going to be spaces. Option 3, meet. 4, keep. 5, tasks. And last but not least, drive. So then we decide to make our section headers bold. So I'm going to just click on that section 3 of 3 header, select everything. And I can use Control B here, or I can click on the B icon. And I'm going to go up to my section 2 header and do the same thing. And I think the title is fine. So the next topic is sending a form. But before I send a form, I like to preview it. So go ahead and click on your eyeball icon in the upper right. And you'll see next, it gives you the title block. And then when you do next, it goes to the next section and includes the title block at the top. And so this is our section 2, where we're listing the apps and using the linear scale. And then at the bottom, you have back, next, and clear form, although you're not going to use this to fill out the form. We're going to choose next, and it takes us to our third and final section about other apps. And I'll show you that preview opened in its own tab, so I'm going to close the preview tab here and just re-maximize my browser window. So once we previewed the form, and this is also not on the outline, but I'm going to show it to you real quick. You might want to make it more visually appealing. So we're going to go to the paint palette icon to customize the theme. Here you can change your fonts and font sizes. You can add images. I'm just going to change my color. And so the background color, as well as the header, the section colors, really get the color that I chose. And notice the background is a little bit lighter. I can make that darker if I like. And I'm going to go ahead and close the theme panel. So now you can go ahead and click on the send button in the upper right corner. And you can send forms via email, which is the default, via link. You can get a link to the form and copy it. And then you can send the link via chat or some other mechanism. And you can also embed it on an HTML page. We're going to keep it on email, and I'm going to send it to my alter ego. I'm also at the bottom going to include it in the form in an email. I usually check that because I like to do that, although you don't have to check it. So I'll leave that choice up to you. I'm going to go ahead and address it. It gives the subject, which is the name of the form, and it gives a default message, and I'm fine with that. So I'm going to address it. I can add someone else as an editor of the form in the bottom left if I want to. So when they receive it, they can actually edit it. Otherwise, I'm just mimicking how someone who's responding to it would respond. So I'm going to go ahead and address this and click send. In my alter email, I see I can just click the link to fill out the form. And it lets me know that it's going to automatically save my work. I'll just say, okay. So I'm going to click next. And I'm going to just do some random numbers on this linear scale here. Random choices. And then when I get to the bottom on this section, I'm going to go next and fill out the last section. And you can do the same. And then you'll have your submit button. So there's a setting that allows respondents to submit another response. And I'd like us to submit another response and mix it up a little bit from your first response. So Alter has submitted 2 responses. I'm going to switch back over to my Trish account. So now you'll see at the top of my screen, there's a 2, the number 2, to the right of my responses tab, because I've received 2 responses to this form. So I'm going to go to the responses tab. At the top, it says 2 responses. It's on a summary tab. There's also a question tab. So these are the tab locations I'm talking about. Summary, question, and there is also an individual tab. And above those tabs on the right, you'll see a green icon, and if you hover over it, it says create spreadsheet, and we'll get back to that in a few. It also has more options. So we'll go over some of these. And this form is accepting responses. And this is a key one. Let's say you're doing this survey and you want to end the survey in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you can come in and toggle that so the form no longer accepts responses. And then on the summary tab, you're seeing each question, and it's showing both of the responses for each of those linear scale questions, right? So you're seeing everything. And then it's showing the additional apps responses. And you'll notice to the right of all the responses, you could copy the chart if you'd like and paste it somewhere else as necessary. If you go to the question tab, it's showing the first question, right? So it's showing both responses for Gmail. There's a right arrow you can use to go to the next question, or you can do the drop down next to Gmail and go through the questions that way. And lastly, you have the individual tab. And you'll notice at the top of the individual tab, you can print responses. It's on response 1. So it's showing all the questions and all the responses for the first respondent. And back up at the top, I can go to the next response and look at those in the same manner. So you have your summary tab, your question tab, and your individual tab, which can be printed. A really cool feature in Forms, and you can do this from any of the Responses tabs, is you can link the form to a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet will be stored in Drive, and the responses will be in the spreadsheet as they come in. So in order to do that, we're going to use that green icon in the upper right corner. And when you hover over it, it says Create Spreadsheet. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and it gives you the ability to create a new spreadsheet or select an existing spreadsheet. So let's cancel out of here for a moment because I realize that we never clicked in our rename box. So let's click in our rename box so we get the Google Workspace survey name up there. And then we'll go to the green icon. So instead of saying untitled form now, so it's going to create a new spreadsheet, and it's going to be named after your form, and in parentheses, it will say responses. And we're going to go ahead and create. So you can see it automatically opens the form. It gives it a timestamp, and it's showing you the responses by question. And because this is on Drive, if there are more responses, this spreadsheet will update as well. In this module, we focused on using Google Forms. We started by getting into Forms and understanding the Forms display screen, and then we created a form. We added sections and then questions, and then you learned how to preview your form, and we decided to add a theme to it for some more visual appeal. You then learned how to view your form responses in Forms and how to link the form to a spreadsheet, and you saw how the spreadsheet is where you could go to view your form responses as well. In our 8th and final module, we'll be using Google Meet over 8 lessons. We'll start by scheduling a video meeting from Google Calendar. You'll learn how to join a video meeting, and then you'll learn about the Meet display screen. You'll also learn how to present your screen during a meeting, and then how to manage meetings, how to change your audio and video settings, how to start a video meeting both from Gmail and ending with starting a video meeting from Google Meet. So we're going to get started by scheduling a video meeting from Google Calendar. I'm going to use the Apps menu to get to my calendar. And I'm going to just go 2 days out. For me, it would be Friday the 13th. And I am going to double click on any appointment line. And so the first thing I'm going to do at the top on the left is I'm going to add a title. And this is going to be called Company-Wide Meeting. I'm going to set this to an all-day event that does not repeat. And my scenario for this is I have people in time zones all across the United States. So the meeting will go from 8 to 5 p.m. and it will start in the earliest time zone. So that's the East Coast, and travel across the country until everybody is in the meeting at the same time. Under event details, the first thing you see is add Google Meet video conferencing, and I'm going to click that. It gives me a code. I'm going to click in add location, and I'm going to type the word remote. And you notice it brings up a bunch of stuff called remote all around the country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click away from that so it just selects my remote. I'm going to change my availability to busy on the left. And then in the add description box, I'm going to type, this is the meeting where we will discuss whether to adopt Google Workspace for our organization. Your input is critical for this decision. Looking forward to picking your brains. On the right side, I'm going to go ahead and add my alter ego as a guest. Once you add guests here, press enter, and then you'll see them down below. If the guest you're adding is already on the list, when you click there, you can just click on them and they will show down below. So under guest permissions on the right, I'm going to say that my guests can only see the guest list, not modify the event or invite others. Up at the top, I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And it asks me if I'd like to send invitation emails to Google Calendar guests, and I'm going to choose Send. So the all-day event shows up at the very top of that day. It's not on any specific time slot because it's an all-day event. Even without sending an email, this event is already on Alter Ego's calendar as a pending event. I'm going to switch over now to Alter Ego's email. In Alter's email, I'm going to just respond to this. I'm going to just say yes, click the yes button. And if I scroll down and slightly to the right, when I'm ready to join the meeting, I can use this link in the email. Now back on Trish's calendar, I can double click that company-wide meeting, and you can see here, I have an RSVP, right? I can add a note for guests, and you can see down here that 2 guests, including myself, the organizer, I have 2 yeses. So it keeps a tally of people responding. And I'm going to just go ahead and save. Now I am going to join the meeting from my calendar. I'm back in my Trish calendar. I'm going to just double click it to open it up. And now the icon says join with Google Meet. I don't have my video. I have my video lid closed. And in that video screen at the bottom, you can turn off your microphone or turn off your camera, and this would be universal for everyone. You also can check your audio and video if necessary. On the right side, on the bottom of the video, you see apply visual effects. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it opens up a new pane. And it's on the effects tab. And by the way, if you had checked your audio and video, it would be on the audio and video tab. So on the effects tab, there's a couple of new things there. And then there's a bunch of backgrounds. And then filters if I scroll down and then there are styles. So if I want to apply a different background than my home office, and I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm going to click the X in the upper right-hand corner. Now on the right side, it's letting me know that no one else is here. I can join now. I'm going to go ahead and join now. So that was like a preview, and now you're seeing the meeting interface. And on the bottom left, it tells you the time, the name of the meeting. You have a series of icons. You can turn off your microphone, or you can turn off your camera. You can also turn on captions. A participant can raise their hand to get your attention if you're presenting. Present now gives me the ability to present my screen to everyone in the meeting. Then there's more options where I can open a jam whiteboard. I can change the layout, apply visual effects, some of the stuff that's on the icons there, report a problem, so on and so forth. And then you have the hang up button or leave call when you're ready to leave the call. On the right, you have meeting details information icon. So when I click that, it shows me the details of the meeting. It shows the name, the description, the time, the date and time, the fact that it's located at remote. And then if I needed to copy the joining info really quickly and send it to somebody in a chat, I can get it right from there. And I'm going to close the meeting details pane. And then to the right of that, it's letting me know that there's only one person in the meeting. It's showing, I can show everyone, and you're just seeing me if I click that icon. I can open up a chat screen that I can send chats to everyone. And by default, people that are in the meeting can also send chat messages. I can close that panel. Usually, if I'm doing a remote training course with live people in the audience, not a video, then I have the chat on so that people that, can't speak up or whatever can still participate. Then there's an activities icon where you can get to breakout rooms, polls, record your meetings, whiteboards. And last but not least, there are host controls. And so I'm the host, and I am turning on host management. I'm letting everybody in the meetings then share their screens, send chat messages, turn on their microphones, and turn on their videos. So now Alter is going to join the meeting, and Alter is going to join from that join meeting button in the email that she was sent. So the first thing you'll see is someone wants to join this call. As the host, you can remove anyone at any time. I'm going to go ahead and admit, and that's just a setting that I used. And now my screen changes. Alter Ego is not on video. So they just show as the letter A, and my video is now in the lower right-hand corner. It's the opposite on Alter Ego's screen. My video fills up most of the screen, and their letter A is in the lower right corner. So at this point, I want to share my screen. I want to share that Google Workspace survey form with everybody in the meeting. So I'm going to go down to my Present Now icon, and I'm going to share a tab. So your choice is your entire screen, a window, or a tab. I have the form open in a different browser tab, and then I can see the survey there, and I'm going to share. And so now I can see, and everybody in the meeting can see this survey form, and we can discuss it during the meeting. And then if I want to stop sharing at the top, I can choose stop sharing. Now, in the meantime, on Alter's screen, my shared screen is taking up most of the space. My video is on the top right. I'm going to choose stop sharing. So now when I look in my lower right corner, first of all, I'm seeing that there are 2 people in the meeting. And to the right of that, I have a little notification on the chat with everyone. When I open it up, I can see that Alter Ego sent me a chat. And I can reply back. Everybody in the meeting would see this. And that's how that works. And I'm going to go ahead and close the in-call messages window. And now we'll just make believe that this meeting is over. So at the bottom, I'm going to click the hang up, the leave call button. And because I'm the host, I can end the video call for everyone. I'm going to do that. Otherwise, you would just leave the call and everyone can hang up on their own. But in my case, since I'm managing 2 people in the meeting at the same time, that ended for me. And so it always asks you for a survey, and I'm going to give my feedback. And it takes me to Google Meet's home screen. I'm back in Trisha's calendar, and I want to show you some other things that you can do in terms of managing your meetings. So I'm going to just double click this company-wide meeting. And again, the link is still active here, right? But what I'm going to do is up at the top, I'm going to select the More Actions drop down. So you can print out your meeting details. You can delete a meeting from here. You can duplicate a meeting if you have a similar one coming up, right? You can publish an event. And if you click on that, it gives you a block of HTML code. So if you have your website, you can use this code on your site so that visitors can add this event to their calendar, or you can copy the link to the event from that drop down. And then the only other option you have is to change the owner. So I'm the owner of this, I'm the organizer, therefore the owner. I'm the owner of this meeting, or I could set it up and switch it to someone else as the owner of the meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and close this company-wide meeting. Now let's say that you have multiple cameras and multiple microphones on your computer or computers. So I'm going to double click this company-wide meeting again, and I'm going to rejoin it as myself. No need for me to get Alter in this one. So down at the bottom where it says check your audio and video, this is one thing you can do. You're seeing your levels here, right? And I'm going to just close that panel. And then I'm going to join now. And when I join now, I'm going to go to this ellipsis to the left of the leave call button. And I'm going to go to settings. And this is where I can see my default microphone versus any other microphones that I might have, right? And it's showing I'm on the default, and you're seeing my voice register there, right? And then I can go to my speakers down here, and these are the speakers that I can be using, my choices of speakers. And then on the left, I can go to video, and I can choose which camera I want to use, right? And I can also adjust my video lighting. So once you join a meeting and you go to settings, if you're having problems with your audio and video, a lot of times it's because it's defaulting to the wrong audio or video source, and you can change it through settings. I'm going to go ahead and close that screen, and I'm going to leave this call. I'll end it for everyone. And I'm going to return to the home screen for Meet. Now, from the home screen from Meet, you can, of course, start a new meeting or join one by entering a code or a link. but in the upper right-hand corner, you have settings as well. And so before you join a meeting, if you're joining it from Meet, you can make sure your defaults are right in terms of audio and video. Our final lesson is how to start a video meeting from Gmail. So I'm going to navigate using my apps menu to Gmail. And if you do this next thing once, you won't have to do it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link Gmail to Meet. And to do that, I'm going to use the settings gear in the upper right-hand corner. And right under apps in Gmail, you'll see chat and Meet. And then underneath it, a customized link, which we're going to click. At the bottom, I'm going to just go ahead and check both of those boxes, chat and Meet. And then I'm going to choose done. And it lets you know that your Gmail needs to reload so those changes will be visible. So I'm going to go ahead and reload. And like I said, that's a one and done. If you ever want to undo it, you just go back to the gear and uncheck those two things and customize. And so on the left side of your screen now, you'll see 4 icons: Mail, Chat, Spaces, and Meet. We're going to click on Meet. And when you come in here, you can start a new meeting, or you can join a meeting with a code. Before we do that, let me explain my meetings. It says any video meeting scheduled in Google Calendar will show up here until you access them. So we access that company-wide meeting. Otherwise, it would be showing in this list. Now, it would show in this list for Alter as well if they customize their Gmail and if they have accepted or responded to the invitation. We're going to go ahead and click on New Meeting. And then it just says, share your new meeting. Copy this link and send it to people you want to meet with. Be sure you save it so you can use it later too. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link. Now, I could copy that link and send it to somebody in an email. I could send it to somebody in a chat. Down at the bottom, I can send an invite, right? The other option I have, so this could be like an off-the-cuff meeting, right? Need to meet with somebody like right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start Now. And I have my camera shuttered, but it took me right into the meeting. So I'm dumped right into the meeting here. I'm going to go ahead and leave the call. And I can rejoin. I'm going to return to the home screen. And now I'm back on my Meet app. And you can also, right from the Google Meet home screen, you can click on New Meeting. From here, you can create a meeting for later. You can start an instant meeting, or you can schedule in Google Calendar. I'm going to choose Create a Meeting for Later. And it basically just gives me the link, which I can copy, send it to people. And you want to make sure that you send it to yourself so you have that link for yourself as well. So a few more choices than the linking Meet to Gmail that you have when you start a new meeting from the Google Meet home screen. In this 8th and final module, we began using Google Meet. We started by scheduling a video meeting from Google Calendar, and then you learned how to join a video meeting from Google Calendar as well as from an invitee's email. We went over the Meet display screen, and you learned how to present your screen in a meeting. We went on to managing meetings, looking at all the other options that we have available. You learned how to change your audio and video settings. And then we moved on to linking Meet with Gmail and starting a video meeting from Gmail. And we ended by starting a video meeting from Google Meet. Thank you for viewing this Google Workspace video course. We switched our focus solely to Google Sheets. So we started by going over its display screen, and then we input some data and you learned a couple of shortcuts along the way. We created formulas, and then we moved on to working with functions, and then we worked with the Google Sheets functions list. You learned how to format numbers, preview and print a sheet, and then we moved on to creating a chart and working with the chart editor setup options as well as the chart editor customize options. We moved on to working with pivot tables, and then creating and using named ranges, and ended by learning how to protect sheets and ranges. In the 5th module, we focused on Google Docs, so we understood its display screen. We typed a few paragraphs. You learned how to change the view of a document, how to insert images and page numbers, also how to work with styles, which feed into the document outline, which we covered. And then you learned how to collaborate with suggesting mode and how to work with comments. In Module 6, we focused on using Google Slides. As usual, we got an overview of its display screen. We started by entering text on a slide, and you learned how to create new slides and also how to duplicate slides and how to change slide layouts. You also learned how to change the view of a presentation, and then we added images to slides, and you learned how to add, delete, and reorder slides. We applied a theme to make our presentation more visually appealing, and then you learned how to add transitions and animations to your presentation before delivering a presentation. We ended by learning how to use Presenter View and audience tools. In the 7th module, we used Google Forms. Of course, we learned the Forms display screen, which differs slightly from the other ones in that it doesn't have a toolbar or a menu bar. We created a form, we added sections and questions, and then we learned how to preview a form before we applied a theme to it. You learned how to view the form responses, both in Google Forms and by linking the form to a spreadsheet where you can view the responses. And we ended by using Google Meet. We started by scheduling a video meeting from the Google Calendar, and then you learned how to join a meeting from the calendar as well as from email. You learned about the Meet display screen, how to present your screen in a meeting, and how to manage your meetings by using more options. You learned how to change your audio and video settings, as well as how to start a video meeting from Gmail by linking Meet to Gmail. And then we ended by starting a video meeting from Google Meet.